The morning I came home after a long 12-hour shift at the community health center, I knew something was wrong before I even got out of my car. 2 suitcases were sitting on the front porch. My suitcases. I stared at them for a second, confused. Then I looked up. My husband, Graham, stood in the doorway. Behind him stood his mother, Vivian Holt. She had her coat on and her purse tucked under her arm. Her chin was raised high, the same way she always held it when she thought she was better than everyone else. My stomach tightened. Vivian looked at me without a hint of kindness. 6 years, she said coldly. That's what you gave my son. I looked at Graham. He wouldn't even meet my eyes. Not once. Then I noticed a truck parked in the driveway. A young woman sat inside. She was checking her phone. Maybe 22 or 23 years old. Pretty. Young. Waiting. I didn't need anyone to explain what was happening. I already knew. Vivian stepped forward. My son deserves a future, she said. You can't give him one. The words hit hard. But somehow they didn't hurt as much as Graham's silence. For 6 years, I had been his wife. And now he couldn't even look at me. I picked up one suitcase. Then the other. They felt strangely heavy. Later I realized why. Vivian had packed my nursing textbooks at the bottom. Like she wanted to remind me that being a nurse was the only thing I had left. I walked to my car. No tears. No begging. No scene. I wasn't giving Vivian that satisfaction. I drove away. And I never looked back. 6 years. That was how long I had been married to Graham Holt. The first year had been hopeful. We were happy. We got married in spring. Small wedding. Vivian paid for everything and made sure everyone knew it. Every family dinner somehow became a reminder. I paid for this wedding. I paid for those flowers. I paid for that venue. Nothing was ever a gift. Everything was a debt. By Christmas, I still wasn't pregnant. Everyone said not to worry. So I didn't. Not yet. During year 2, Vivian insisted we see a fertility doctor. Just to be safe, she said. The doctor was a man named Dr. Fry. He owned the biggest women's clinic in town. More importantly, he was Vivian's friend. Tests were done. Blood work. Scans. Hormone checks. Then one afternoon Dr. Fry sat me down. His office smelled like coffee and old paper. The fluorescent light buzzed above his desk. He folded his hands. Your ovarian reserve is diminished, he said. The words felt heavy. Complicated. Scary. He told me my chances of having children were low. Very low. I went home crying. Graham hugged me. Vivian pretended to comfort me. But I remember something strange. She never seemed surprised. Almost like she had expected the result. Year 3 was worse. Something didn't feel right. I worked in healthcare. I read medical journals. I understood test results. The numbers Dr. Fry showed me didn't seem as terrible as his explanation. I wanted a second opinion. Vivian moved quickly. She found another specialist. A friend of Dr. Fry. Same answer. Same diagnosis. Same hopeless words. Low chances. Unlikely. Poor prognosis. I started doubting myself. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe they knew something I didn't. Year 4 became a blur of treatments. Hormone injections. Medication. Blood tests. Appointments. The shots left bruises on my stomach. The medication made me sick. I cried in bathrooms. I cried in my car. I cried in the shower where nobody could hear me. Through it all, Graham slowly changed. He became distant. Less patient. Less affectionate. Like every failed month was another reason to blame me. Year 5 was when I finally tried to take control. I secretly scheduled an appointment at a fertility clinic in Charlottesville. A real specialist. Someone outside Barton. Someone Vivian didn't know. I felt hopeful for the first time in years. 3 days later Graham came home. "It's cancelled," he said. I stared at him. "What?" "Mom already handled it." I couldn't believe it. "You cancelled my appointment?" He sighed. "You're torturing yourself." I wanted to scream. Instead I stayed quiet. Because every time I tried to open a door, someone closed it before I could walk through. By year 6, I was exhausted. Graham was staying out late. Sometimes after midnight. Sometimes later. I stopped asking where he went. Part of me already knew. The marriage was dying. I just didn't know how long it had been dead. The only person I trusted was Gail Perkins. We had worked together for years. She was honest. Strong. The kind of friend who tells the truth even when it hurts. The morning I showed up at her house with 2 suitcases, she didn't ask questions. She simply made coffee. Then she sat beside me. "There's something you should see," she said gently. She pulled out her phone. A photo filled the screen. A dealership event. A ribbon cutting. People smiling. In the center stood Graham. His arm was around a young woman. A woman I had never met. Behind them stood Vivian. Smiling. The same smile she wore while throwing me out. "That picture was taken 6 weeks ago," Gail said. I stared at Vivian. Not Graham. Vivian. Because suddenly everything made sense. This wasn't new. This wasn't an accident. This was a plan. The replacement had already been chosen. "Stay here," Gail said. I shook my head. "No. You don't have to be alone. I need my own place." She understood. The next day I found a small cottage on Orchard Road. It was old. The window stuck when it rained. The porch leaned slightly to one side. The rent was cheap. But when the landlord handed me the keys, he smiled. "It's not much," he said. "But it's yours." Nobody had said those words to me in years. "It's yours." I moved in with 2 suitcases and a box of nursing books. That first night I sat on the porch drinking instant coffee. The air smelled sweet. A giant magnolia tree stood in the neighboring yard. Its flowers filled the evening air. For the first time in 6 years, I felt something strange. Peace. Then I noticed my neighbor. A man mowing his lawn. Quiet. Focused. He looked up. Raised a hand. "Evening." That was all. Then he went back to work. The next day I asked the landlord about him. "That's Wyatt Calloway," he said. "Used to be county sheriff. Seems quiet." "He is." That sounded perfect. I was tired of loud people. The following week the gossip started. Small towns survive on gossip. By Monday, everyone had a version of my divorce. Most of them blamed me. At the pharmacy, Vivian's friend patted my shoulder. "Some women just aren't meant to be mothers." At the grocery store, a cashier asked if my husband was dating the pretty intern. At church, people whispered. At restaurants, people stared. Everywhere I went, I felt judged. Like my value as a woman had been measured and found lacking. Only one person at work refused to play along. Dr. Smith. She called me into her office. "I heard the rumors," she said. I waited. "You're still the best nurse in this building." That was all. No pity. No judgment. Just respect. I almost cried. Instead, I thanked her and went back to work. A few days later, a kitchen window got stuck. I climbed onto a stool and tried forcing it open. Nothing worked. Then there was a knock. I opened the door. Wyatt stood there. "Those windows swell every summer," he said. Without another word, he stepped inside. 30 seconds later the window slid open. Just like that. "Thank you," I said. He shrugged. I offered coffee. To my surprise, he accepted. We sat on the porch. Talking. Not much. But enough. He listened carefully. Actually listened. Most people only wait for their turn to speak. Wyatt listened. Eventually I told him the truth. "My husband left because they say I can't have children." He looked thoughtful. "Who diagnosed you?" "Dr. Fry." Something changed in his expression. Very small. Very brief. Then he nodded. "If you ever want a second opinion," he said, "I might know a place." That was all. No pressure. No advice. Just an open door. For 3 nights I couldn't stop thinking about it. A second opinion. A real one. What if Dr. Fry had been right? What if he had been wrong? The question kept me awake. Finally, at 2 in the morning, I sat up in bed. I grabbed my phone. I searched my legal rights as a patient. Within minutes I had my answer. I had every right to request my complete medical records. Every page. Every test. Every report. The next morning I called Dr. Fry's office. The receptionist sounded nervous. "I'd like a copy of my entire file." There was silence. Then she said she would process the request. After hanging up, I called Wyatt. "That second opinion?" "Yes?" "I want it." "I'll make a call." No questions. No speeches. Just help. A few days later Wyatt drove me to Richmond. The drive took almost 2 hours. Rolling hills. Open roads. Fresh air. When we arrived, I stared at the huge medical campus. Glass buildings. Beautiful grounds. Professional staff. This wasn't a small-town clinic. This was something much bigger. The sign read, "Callaway Medical Group." I blinked. Then I looked at Wyatt. "Callaway?" He nodded. "My father built it." I stared. The quiet neighbor mowing his lawn wasn't just a retired sheriff. He belonged to one of the biggest medical groups in the state. And suddenly I realized there was far more to Wyatt than he ever showed. A doctor named Priya Anand met with me. She shook my hand warmly. Then she smiled. "Let's start from the beginning." For the first time in 6 years, I felt hope. Real hope. Not Vivian's version. Not Dr. Fry's version. Mine. And I had no idea that the truth waiting ahead would destroy everything Vivian Holt had spent 6 years building. The tests at Callaway Medical Group took most of the day. Blood work. Hormone panels. Ultrasounds. Everything. Unlike Dr. Fry, Dr. Anand explained every step. She treated me like a person. Not a problem. Not a failure. A person. When we finally drove home, I felt lighter than I had in years. Still, fear stayed with me. Because if Dr. Fry had been right, then nothing would change. But if he had been wrong, everything would. A week later, my phone rang while I was working. The caller ID showed Callaway Medical Group. My heart immediately started pounding. I stepped into an empty room and answered. "Hello? Myra, this is Dr. Anand." Her voice sounded calm. Professional. But there was something else there too. Confidence. "Myra, your results are back." I sat down. The room suddenly felt very quiet. "Your ovarian reserve is healthy." I blinked. "What?" "Your hormone levels are normal." I couldn't speak. "There is no medical reason you cannot have children." The words hit me like a wave. For 6 years I had been told I was broken. For 6 years I believed something was wrong with me. For 6 years I carried shame that was never mine. And now one honest doctor had destroyed the lie in a single sentence. I thanked her. Hung up. Then sat there staring at the wall. I wasn't crying. I wasn't smiling. I was simply stunned. 6 years. Gone. Just like that. When my shift ended, I drove home in silence. The magnolia tree swayed gently outside my cottage. The world looked exactly the same. But nothing felt the same anymore. A few weeks later my medical records arrived. A large manila envelope. I placed it carefully on the kitchen table. Made tea. Then opened it. Page after page filled the table. Lab reports. Doctor notes. Test results. Years of records. I began reading. Slowly. Carefully. The way a nurse reads a chart. Looking for facts. Not opinions. Not assumptions. Facts. The first strange thing appeared quickly. A hormone result Dr. Fry had called dangerous. The actual laboratory value was normal. Very normal. I checked again. Then again. The printed result said one thing. His handwritten note said another. Someone had changed the number. My stomach tightened. I kept reading. Another test. Another altered value. Then another. And another. Every time the laboratory showed a normal result, Dr. Fry's notes transformed it into a problem. I pushed back from the table. Walked to the window. Took a deep breath. Then returned. The deeper I looked, the worse it became. This wasn't one mistake. This wasn't carelessness. This was deliberate. Someone had changed my records. Someone wanted me to believe I couldn't have children. And suddenly I knew exactly who benefited from that lie. Vivian Holt. Hours passed. The sky outside grew dark. Then I found something that made my blood run cold. A fertility panel. Official paperwork. Signed and stamped. The collection date read. Sunday, March 12th. I stared at it. Sunday. That couldn't be right. I had worked in Barton for years. Barton Women's Health was closed on Sundays. Always. I grabbed my phone. Opened their website. The hours appeared immediately. Monday through Saturday. Closed Sunday. My heart pounded harder. That blood test could never have happened. Never. Which meant someone created it. Someone forged it. I photographed every page. Every signature. Every report. Then I carefully sealed everything back inside the envelope. After that I opened my laptop. I searched how to file a complaint with the Virginia Board of Medicine. And I started reading. Line by line. The same way I had read those records. Because now I knew something terrible. I had not been misdiagnosed. I had been lied to. 4 days later Dr. Anand called again. Her voice sounded serious. Myra, I have a question. Okay. Did your husband ever complete fertility testing? I frowned. Dr. Fry said Graham's results were normal. Silence. Then Dr. Anand spoke carefully. The records suggest attention may have been intentionally directed toward you. I understood immediately. She couldn't accuse anyone. But she didn't have to. The evidence pointed somewhere. Toward Graham. Toward the possibility that he, not me, had fertility issues. My hands tightened around the phone. Everything suddenly made sense. Every test. Every diagnosis. Every accusation. The blame had always been aimed at me because someone wanted to protect somebody else. When the call ended, I sat quietly at my kitchen table. The anger finally arrived. Not at myself. At them. At the people who had stolen 6 years of my life. Gail helped gather more information. Her husband worked in the county clerk's office. A few days later she arrived carrying documents. Financial records. Trust reports. Annual filings. We spread them across her dining table. Then we found it. Payments. Thousands of dollars. Every year. From the Holt Family Trust. To Dr. Fry's clinic. The amounts grew larger year after year. 8,000. 10,000. 12,000. Over and over. For 6 years. Gail stared at the numbers. That doesn't look like a partnership. No, I said quietly. It looks like payment. The room became silent. Because we both knew what those payments meant. Someone had been rewarding Dr. Fry. Paying him. Keeping him loyal. Keeping him quiet. That night I drove home feeling sick. Not from fear. Not from anger. Something else. A strange exhaustion. A strange nausea. I ignored it. There were more important things happening. At least that's what I told myself. Weeks passed. Wyatt and I spent more time together. Most evenings we sat on his porch. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we simply listened to the wind moving through the magnolia tree. One evening I showed him everything. The forged records. The altered numbers. The financial trail. All of it. When I finished, he sat quietly for a long time. Then he asked one question. What do you want to do? I thought about Vivian. About the gala she hosted every year. About standing in front of 200 people and exposing everything. The idea felt satisfying. But only for a moment. Then I shook my head. No. Wyatt waited. I want the truth to win because it's true. Not because I screamed louder. Not because I embarrassed someone. Because facts mattered. Evidence mattered. Process mattered. Monday morning I filed the complaint. Every page. Every photo. Every record. Every date. Everything. When I pressed submit, I felt something unexpected. Relief. For the first time in years, I wasn't fighting alone. The truth was finally doing the work. 2 weeks later the Board of Medicine opened an official investigation. Dr. Fry panicked. He called Vivian. The conversation became part of the investigation later. She told him to destroy records. He couldn't. It was too late. The original laboratory data still existed. Everything could be verified. Everything. For the first time in years, Vivian was losing control. Then she showed up at my cottage. She stood on my porch wearing an expensive cream-colored coat. Looking completely out of place. We need to talk, she said. I let her inside. She refused coffee. Of course she did. Then she got straight to the point. Drop the complaint. I pretended not to understand. What complaint? She narrowed her eyes. I can make this worth your while. There it was. Money. Control. Leverage. The tools she always used. But they no longer worked. She threatened me. Warned me. Told me the Holt name carried influence. I looked at her calmly. I lived under that influence for 6 years. Her expression hardened. You wasted 6 years of my son's life. I almost laughed. The irony was unbelievable. She left angry. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of her. The investigation continued. Evidence piled up. Witnesses were interviewed. Financial records were reviewed. The truth kept growing. Then my body forced me to pay attention. The exhaustion. The nausea. The tenderness. Finally, one Saturday morning, I bought a pregnancy test. Not in Barton. In another town. Somewhere nobody knew me. I sat on the bathroom floor afterward, holding the test. Staring. 2 lines. Positive. My breath caught. I looked again. Still positive. Tears filled my eyes. 6 years. 6 years of shame. 6 years of believing I was broken. And now there were 2 pink lines proving the truth. I cried. Really cried. For the first time in a long time. When Dr. Anand confirmed the pregnancy, she smiled. Then she added something else. You're having twins. I laughed and cried at the same time. Twins. A boy and a girl. The drive home felt unreal. The entire world seemed brighter. When I told Wyatt, he wrapped his arms around me. And for the first time, I felt completely safe. News spread through Barton. The investigation leaked. People talked. Rumors changed. The same town that once blamed me was now asking different questions. Questions about Vivian. Questions about Dr. Fry. Questions about the truth. The annual Holt Family Foundation Gala arrived 1 week later. Vivian's biggest event. Her favorite stage. 200 guests filled the ballroom. White roses. Crystal decorations. Expensive dresses. Powerful people. Everything looked perfect. But underneath it all, cracks were spreading. I almost didn't go. Then Wyatt convinced me. Sometimes showing up is enough. So I went. I wore a simple blue dress. Nothing fancy. But my pregnancy was beginning to show. Not much. Just enough. When I entered the room, people noticed. Whispers spread immediately. Then Vivian saw me. Her smile froze. Myra, she said. How unexpected. Hello, Vivian. Before she could say more, the doors opened again. Wyatt entered. Only this time everyone recognized him. The event host announced his full title. President and heir of Callaway Medical Group. The room fell silent. People stared. Vivian looked shocked. The quiet neighbor she had ignored was one of the most powerful men in the state. Her face lost all color. Then everything exploded. Phones buzzed. Guests checked screens. A news article had just been published. Dr. Fry had been suspended. The investigation was public. The article spread through the room in seconds. Graham read it. Then looked at Vivian. Mom. His voice shook. What did you do? Vivian tried to stop him. Not here. But it was too late. You told me Myra was the problem. His voice grew louder. You told me for 6 years. Everyone listened. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The truth had finally arrived. And nobody could stop it. Vivian pointed at me. She is destroying everything. I stood quietly. One hand resting on my stomach. No shouting. No drama. Just truth. Graham turned toward me. Why didn't you tell me? I looked at him. Really looked at him. Then I asked the only question that mattered. Would you have believed me? Silence. Because we both knew the answer. No. He wouldn't have. He had chosen his mother every time. For 6 years. Vivian tried one final time. Let's discuss this privately. I shook my head. There is no family, Vivian. The room became silent. You made sure of that. I paused. Then I said the words she would never forget. 6 years of nothing. That's what you told me. My eyes met hers. But the nothing was never mine. Her shoulders dropped. the fight left her. And for the first time since I met her, she looked small. Very small. Kelsey quietly walked out. Nobody stopped her. Nobody even noticed. The spotlight had moved. The truth was finally center stage. Wyatt took my hand. Together we walked out. Not running. Not hiding. Walking. Calmly. Confidently. Free. The investigation eventually destroyed everything Vivian had built. Dr. Fry lost his medical license. His clinic closed permanently. Criminal charges followed. The financial records exposed Vivian's role. She was removed from control of the family trust. Her influence disappeared. The empire she spent decades building collapsed. Graham left town shortly afterward. He never contacted me again. There was nothing left to say. 8 months later, Wyatt and I got married beneath the magnolia tree. Small ceremony. Close friends. Family. Love. Nothing fake. Nothing forced. Just happiness. In December, our twins arrived. Healthy. Perfect. A baby boy. A baby girl. I held them both and cried. Not because I finally became a mother. Because I finally understood something important. I had never been broken. Not once. Not ever. The lie had been broken. The people telling it had been broken. But not me. Years later, I still sit on that porch sometimes. Watching the magnolia tree move in the evening breeze. Listening to my children laugh inside the house. And whenever I remember those 6 years, I think about one simple truth. The people who try hardest to convince you that you're not enough are often terrified of discovering that you were enough all along. And in the end, the truth did what it always does. It waited. Then it won.